process, you're there, you're immersed in this thing. You know what happens. You know that they give you their name and email, and that they get the sequence, and they get the downloadable, and all that. But for them, many times you oversee the little things, and the little things, they are the things that make it easy or complicated for them. And so, in other words, it's obvious that all this happens, but is there a button that says, click here to submit? You know, is there a button that says, click here to buy? Because even though it's obvious that they have to that they can hit enter or that they can click, you have to tell them. And don't, like, and that's a big thing. Like, many times people just assume it's obvious. It's obvious that they can click on the contact page. It's obvious that they can click here to buy. But is it really obvious? Does it tell them that? In other words, say it for them. Put the contact information everywhere. Put the buttons visible. Let them know that they can click. Even though it's obvious to you, just make it obvious to them.
Right.
Make it so
to
that
buy, click here.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Buy now, add to cart. Like, make those visible, make those obvious. I see this a lot many times in like forms and contact forms. So they'll have the form, they'll have the name field, they'll have the email field, they have the section where they can type in their message. Great. And then they don't have a send button, because it's obvious that you can just click enter and the message goes. But it's not really obvious. It's like, okay, what do I do now? And after a few minutes, if they're willing to actually figure it out, they'll hit enter and go. But why not just have a button? You know, like, it's not always that obvious. So make it obvious. There's no harm in that. Think about this. This is like something that we often talk about. Your brain only runs on 9 watts. Just to give you an idea, that's like 1/3 of the power that the light bulb inside of your fridge uses. So that's nothing, right? So every time you think, every time you talk, every time you do things, it actually consumes a lot of energy from your brain, and it can be exhausting. So if you're making someone think, if you're making someone have to figure something out, they're getting tired. You're just making that process harder and harder, and they'll give up, because sometimes thinking is exhausting. And so, literally, physically, to our brains. And so, make it easy. Like, I can't stress this enough. Like, don't assume that it's obvious. Make it easy.
Gotcha.
So going back to the page, right? So we talked about having homepage, about page, contact page. I would certainly recommend having a blog, like we talked about yesterday. Yesterday we talked a lot about blogging. We're going to change a little bit our direction, because I want to make it clear that you'll end up with a WordPress website. But a blog is a very important component for your business if you're willing to blog consistently, right? So I would definitely have a blog. And then what do you offer? So if you have some type of consulting service, if you have something that you're doing, like, have that page, whether you call it services, or whether you have work with me, or however you want to call it, but have a page that is clear, that it's specific about what you do. Remember, don't just assume. I know you talked about what you do on the homepage, and I know it's kind of clear because of the name of the website, but make it clear what you do, what you offer. Don't be afraid of having a services page. Like, I see this a lot, especially with consulting clients, like people who consult for a living. It's like, it's obvious. I have a video that talks about what I do. I'm on the homepage, I'm letting them know that I talk about leadership or whatever it is. But have a page dedicated to how you can help them. And then on that page, yes, list the services, but remember, as you're talking, who are you talking with? Who's your audience? And talk to them. Like, specifically, what I recommend is actually making a list of who you're reaching. So actually down to like a name, give them a name. So it's like, okay, I'm reaching Ezekiel, and Ezekiel is 35 years old. With that name, probably like 65. Ezekiel is 65. His hobbies are golfing. He likes crossword puzzles. He fears being alone in life. Like, whatever. Actually have it written down. His fears, his values, his age, his name, so that he becomes an actual concrete person for you, right? And then as you're creating the content for your website, write it as if you're talking to Ezekiel, as if it's like, hey, Ezekiel, and you're having a conversation with him right there and then. And then you're talking about the things that bother him, the things that make him happy. You're talking about the things that matter to him. So when Ezekiel is home alone and he's checking out your website, well, he reads your message and it's like, whoa, this person understands me. So it's not just about the services that they offer, but they really understand me. And I know I'm talking specifically about services, but it's the same when you're talking about products, right? If you see, not to mention brands, but if you see, for example, GoPro, like the little cameras that they sell, it's very distinct who they reach, right? If you look at their marketing pieces, they're going after that crowd that likes to be outdoors, the adventures and all of that. They know who they're talking to. I'm sure they know the age that they're reaching. So it resonates to them. And they're just selling gadgets, they're selling cameras. So it's the same thing with you, whether you're selling services, consulting services, website services, whether you're selling dog grooming, you need to know who you're talking to. And then you talk to them on that website. Use that platform for that. Because the look and feel of the site is just one piece of it. It's just one small piece of it. You can have a blank page. You can have just a bare bones, white, simple website page. But if your message resonates with your audience, that website works. Now, you can have a super colorful, full of whistles and bells and blah, 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 latest trend. But if your message doesn't resonate with the audience you're trying to reach, that website fails. Did I say the other one failed? Succeeds. So in other words, if you can have a bare bone piece of paper with the right message and it can be a very successful website. You can have a super trendy website that doesn't talk to your audience and that's a complete failure.
You're solving their problem.
Exactly.
Whether it's a product or a service, that's